city is a big organization, and by our responsibility has many, many different areas of business, of which infrastructure is a very significant one. Municipalities in Canada actually own 60% of the public infrastructure: roads, water systems, sewer, liquid waste, solid waste, housing, cultural facilities, recreation facilities, like all the infrastructure that people talk about. 60% of it are owned by us, and our challenge is that we only raise 8 cents on the tax dollar. So what that means is that through our regulation, through our partnerships, through the innovation that we use, we need to be very creative in how we leverage the resources, the time, and the opportunity to keep our infrastructure up the way it needs to be kept up to support commerce and our economy, as well as the needs of our citizens. So it's very interesting, very challenging, and you really have to understand as a city where your points of leverage are, what things can make a big difference, and focus your efforts where you can actually really make big progress on something. So focus, really understanding what your business and what makes a big difference is fundamental to a successful city. The Greenest City Plan is all-encompassing. It talks about, clean energy, zero waste, and healthy habitat. And amongst those 3 headings are about 10 major thematic areas where we have metrics and goals that we're going to achieve by 2020. Neighborhood utilities, district energy is a major area of interest for us because 60% of greenhouse gases come from buildings in our city. And so to try and create opportunities for existing buildings to retrofit, to make sure that any new buildings are going to be green and very low carbon, and to leverage opportunities for people to do better. District energy is a big point. So the city owns a utility, the Southeast False Creek. It's a sewage hot water exchange facility. It's very interesting that we are, we've brought online the whole village science world. We're now branching out. We're building a pipe out to Great Northern Way, so the whole Great Northern Way campus will come on board, all the new building that's going on there, to our district energy. And ultimately I think we're currently at about 3.6 million square feet that we service, and we'll be at double that by the end of what we see as the kind of near to medium future for Southeast False Creek. Already we're running a 65% reduction in greenhouse gases from business as usual. So it's a huge point of leverage around climate change and greenhouse gas emissions. So it ties into, and it's been a terrific learning platform for us to develop our district energy strategy for the rest of the city. And right now we're working on platforms in the downtown core, on Cambie, Fraser Lands, and along the Broadway corridor, where we have existing big energy centers serving public sector organizations. In the case of downtown, Central Heat, which is a private sector agency. But if we can get those to all do a fuel switch, it'd be huge. So really it's about how do we enable that? What needs to happen to make it happen, and how to get it done as quickly as we can, because overnight, if you can do a fuel switch, you can take your greenhouse gas emissions and just drop it. The Georgia Viaducts is a really interesting opportunity. As I think most people know, they were remnants of a to-be highway system that never transpired. Decisions made in the 1970s, really by the community, to say they didn't want that. And so the city's now got a lot of work underway. Probably the complexities of the viaduct decision relate to obviously transportation. And we have a lot of external partners who are working with us to study the transportation impacts, and all the evidence so far is pretty robustly saying you can do it, that you can continue goods movement, flow of traffic, and make it work without the viaducts. The second thing is really the soils on Northeast False Creek. They're some of the most difficult to deal with soils in the whole country. And there is a plan. We're in partnership with the province around that. Those agreements date back to the Expo Lands sale. And so we've got to figure out, if we're going to take advantage of it, when you move those soils around, you don't want to move them very far. So there has to be a plan put in place for that, and we have to look at what's it going to cost. The green space that it frees up is, really, really profound. And as I said, there's a lot of city land, obviously. All the airspace that the viaducts take up is embedded from city land that will be freed up and become very valuable land on which we could meet a number of our public policy goals. And then really the other piece of it is trying to figure out the existing private landowners and how we can work with them to get a plan together that anticipates the viaducts coming down and that will integrate the soils, transportation, road work, and the phasing of a plan like that. So it's very, very interesting work. Probably one of the most interesting city building things that has gone on since I've been in the office of the city manager. And I think after sometime in 2015, our work will be brought forward to council to see if they're going to make a decision. Laneway houses are a really remarkable opportunity that I think we're just starting to understand what the potential is. We, by design, have not allowed people to stratify them. They have to be rental. So what that means is that they'll roll into the sort of light rent controls that we have in British Columbia, and that will over time make them more and more affordable. If you look, I live in Dunbar, where they're very popular, and we have a lot of seniors living in Dunbar in big rambling houses. They love their neighborhood, they've got their social support network, they don't really want to move out. And you can start to see the opportunities, right? If they can build a laneway house and have a family move into their house. And I think there's all kinds of different tenure and partnership things that probably could be looked at over time. In single-family neighborhoods in Vancouver, if you look at the density that we have in the city, it's obviously in different areas, but the vast majority of our city still remains very low density. But it's hard for people to get their heads around that. So laneway houses is a way that our public seem to have really come a long way to accepting. We've got 1,000 that have been approved and lots more in the works. And I think that it will remain affordable because they are rental. And so it's a very much more gentle way of densifying, and you can get young families moving in an arrangement that brings kids into our schools, which is so important, and it brings alive our neighborhoods because neighborhoods need children, youth, seniors, grandparents, and young and older families bringing their kids up. And so when we're thinking about this, not just it's not just a form of development, it actually has to be part of how you build a healthy, balanced community.